it's certainly a valid concern. I've got a 4-year-old, and I've been in that position where you're out in public and they're being exposed to an image, something that you don't think they're ready for. It can be a really difficult thing to navigate. But to put it very simply, the Supreme Court has been clear for decades that we simply do not childproof our public spaces. And there are a number of cases that touch on this, that describe how, public parks and public sidewalks, what we call our traditional public forums, are the places where First Amendment protections are at their absolute highest. And these are the places where the Supreme Court has, described, going back to a decision, Hague in 1939, that these are the places that have been kept for time immemorial, within the public trust, specifically for, free expression, free communication, free assembly. And so particularly in these places, it's not that it's not a consideration, but it is a significantly, smaller consideration than the government would have you believe in this case. So there's one case that we use quite a bit, Brown v. EMA, and this is a Supreme Court decision where the court struck down a California ordinance, that was prohibiting violent video games, specifically targeting minors. And the court described how, there is no separate First Amendment analysis for speech that targets minors. Here, we're talking about speech that doesn't target minors. If anything, minors are potentially among the audience. And speech that is in a traditional public forum, which, again, is afforded the highest First Amendment protection. Another Supreme Court case, Erznosnik, the Supreme Court struck down an ordinance that was banning drive-in movie theaters from showing films containing nudity if the screens were visible from public sidewalks. And again, the primary rationale there as well was protection of minors. And the Supreme Court said, we simply do not do that. We don't allow these kinds of speech prohibitions, these kinds of restrictions on free expression in our traditional public forums.
And the facts here, Darius and Faraz made multiple steps to make sure that this is not targeting children. There's a playground at Discovery Green Park. They intentionally set up so it's not near the playground. They instruct members of the Cube of Truth team to not engage anyone who appears to be under the age of 13. So Darius and Faraz are intentionally targeting this speech at adults.